This stuff is the bomb. It was so delicious. I'm kind of mad that the word got out because the first time this girl at the potluck brought it, like nobody knew about it. And I was like pigging out on it.
Welcome to Ridgehaven Homestead. From the mountains of Upper East Tennessee, we share snippets of our off-grid life, cabin build, and garden blessings. Pour yourself a cup of tea, sit back, and take a peek into our off-grid home and family.
Friends, I have a hankering for something chocolatey and creamy, and let me tell you, the most popular dessert at last week's potluck was this 3-ingredient chocolate mousse, and it's vegan. So this may not be exactly her recipe, but I looked it up and I'm gonna make it myself, only I'm gonna cut the sugar because I really try to not do much sugar. So I'm gonna be using stevia and a little bit of maple syrup, and I will let you know how it tastes. This stuff is the bomb. It was so delicious. I'm kind of mad that the word got out because the first time this girl at the potluck brought it, like nobody knew about it. And I was like pigging out on it. I'm like, man, this stuff is so good. And I'm like, can I get the recipe? And she gave me the recipe, and it's just 3 ingredients. It was coconut milk, cocoa powder, and powdered sugar, and maybe a little vanilla. Exactly the recipe that she had, I don't know. However, she brought it this last Sabbath and she told me, oh, I brought the mousse. And like suddenly everybody was like, oh, go get the mousse, go get the mousse. And I was like, oh man, my little secret's out. Not my secret, but I'm making this mousse and I'm gonna have a little bit, and it is so delicious. Let's go ahead and make some together.
Well, the joke's on me because my microphone isn't working. So let's grab a full can of full fat coconut milk. You want to refrigerate it overnight, and then the day you're going to make it, you're going to open it and you're going to scrape off the really fatty thick cream. And it turns out if you get a really thick can, you can use the whole thing. Next, you're going to use cocoa powder, and you're going to use 1/4 cup. And I happen to have this organic cocoa powder because I got it at Walmart when they were marking it down. And so I got like 4 of these for maybe $1 each, which was a really good deal. Just grab the kind of cocoa powder that you have. If you like a dark chocolate mousse, then go ahead and grab a Dutch chocolate. Otherwise, grab your normal cocoa powder. Next ingredient you're going to add is your sweetener. So the recipe calls for 2 to 4 tablespoons of powdered sugar. I really kind of prefer to do it without the powdered sugar, and so I'm using maple syrup and stevia. In my recipe, I am using a full teaspoon of powdered stevia, and I'm also using a 1/2 teaspoon of this super concentrated vanilla that I got from Yoder's Country Market. This is like 1/3 to 1/2 the concentration of regular vanilla, so that's why I'm using such a small amount. You can use regular vanilla, whatever kind that you have. This is definitely a recipe where you're going to have to adjust the sweetener to your own tastes. Here I am putting a teaspoon of stevia powder in, but it's very concentrated, so adjust it according to your preferences. I'm also adding a wee little bit of maple syrup. I ended up putting about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup in, and that ended up being a pretty good balance of sweetener. So you have to use your either hand mixer or stand mixer, or you could use a whisk, but I think you're going to get much better results with an electric mixer because you want to incorporate the air into your mixture as you beat it. This is probably the easiest recipe in the world. You just dump everything into your bowl and then whip, whip, whip. You can start on a low speed and then work it up to high speed, and just be careful that it doesn't splatter everywhere because you will make a mess. You can whip this just as long as you want until it gets the fluffiness that you desire. If you have cold coconut cream, this is going to whip up very nicely. If it's not very cold, it's going to be less, and you can always refrigerate it and then take it back out and re-whip it to incorporate more air, because I do find that the cold coconut cream works a lot better than room temperature. Go ahead and taste your chocolate mousse and see if it's as sweet as you like it. If it's not, you can add a smidgen more of maple syrup, honey, powdered sugar, stevia, or whatever your preferred method of sweetener is. Will I or won't I? That's the question. Once I got the chocolate mousse to the sweetening level that I desired, I just could not resist trying the variation, which is adding a little bit of peanut butter. Peanut butter and chocolate are such a good combination. So you can eyeball it, or you can do a couple tablespoons, whatever your level of peanut butter flavor preference is. I added just a blob and then I whipped it in there to see what it would taste like. And I will have to say it was really, really delicious. Possibly an improvement in the original recipe, which is almost impossible to do. So which kind did I prefer, peanut butter or chocolate plain? I'll have to say that it was almost equal, but I think I kind of like it better with the peanut butter. It was super delicious, and I thoroughly recommend it if you like peanut butter and chocolate together. It makes me feel a lot better, like I'm exercising a great deal of restraint when I whip out one of these tiny, tiny little dip bowls from the Pioneer Woman and fill it up in heaping. That way I can have a whole bowl full, but it still is a wee little bit. I happened to be home alone that day, and so I will not reveal to you how many times I filled up my bowl again and again, but let me just say I saved enough for the family. You can check on my YouTube video or on my blog for a recipe for a very easy and delicious vegan coconut cream, which really pairs well with this. Or you can use the Ready Whip vegan, almond, or coconut. There's lots of ways that you can enjoy this treat. Here is your proof that I actually did share it with the family. I packed some into these teeny weeny little jam jars with the cute little lids, and then I put some sprinkles on top, and they were a perfect size for poking in somebody's lunchbox. Because this recipe was such a hit, and because it was super easy and I wanted to play around with it, I made it fairly recently after my first batch, and I did a couple more different variations. This time I made it straight without the peanut butter, and I added in the equivalent of about 1/2 to 1 small avocado. If using avocados in a sweet recipe is new to you, give it a chance. Avocados are so creamy and rich that they really lend a nice texture to a lot of different kind of recipes. In fact, when I was in the Amazon, they would make ice cream very often with a base of avocado, and it ended up being very creamy, delicious, and I think that one was abakachi, or was it abakashi? Sometimes I can't remember. Pretty sure it's abakachi, and pineapple is abakashi. Look it up if you doubt me. I really think that adding the avocado, and it has to be ripe avocado, I really think that adding the avocado gave it much more body and creaminess and stability. The coconut cream can lose its fluffiness if it gets warmer, but the avocado in it just keeps it so creamy, and oh my goodness, it was really, really good. I'm not telling you how much I shared with others of this recipe. But as always, be safe, stay well, and God bless you.